Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to talk about something really cool, a model for understanding creativity itself. Think of it like a universal ladder, one that every great mind, from Einstein to Shakespeare, seems to have climbed. But before we get into the model, let's start with a really big question. Are artists and scientists, are they just wired differently? How does a mind, any mind really, yours or mine, actually produce a masterpiece? What's the secret sauce? All right, so here's what we've got on tap. We're going to look at the mind's creative ladder, break down the 5 stages of cognition, use a poet named Saadi as our guide, compare poets and philosophers, see how they cross over, and then map out some of the greatest creative geniuses. Okay, first up, the mind's creative ladder. So let's really dive into this foundational idea. The whole concept is that all human thinking, I'm talking everything from just our everyday thoughts to the process that creates a masterpiece, it all evolves along a pretty predictable path. You can almost picture it as a 5-step ladder that every single mind climbs. You start at the bottom with just raw, pure experience, and you work your way up to this state of, universal understanding. So let's break down what each of these steps actually looks like. All right, section 2, the 5 stages of cognition. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty and define each of these 5 stages. Understanding these is absolutely key if we want to map out any creative mind. Okay, so stage 1 is sensation. The best way to think about this, imagine a baby tasting a lemon for the very first time. That shock, that pure sensory hit, that's sensation. It's direct, it's raw, it's completely unfiltered. It's basically the world just hitting your senses before your brain even has a chance to slap a label on it. Okay, so after sensation, we climb up to perception. This is where your mind starts to make sense of all that raw data. It begins organizing everything into recognizable patterns. So you're not just seeing a blast of color anymore, you're seeing a car. You're not just hearing sounds, you're picking up on social cues. You're even starting to build a sense of right and wrong. Then we get to stage 3, feeling. And this is where things get intense. This is where emotional power really peaks. For so many artists, this is their home base. It's that deep moral passion, that existential weight that just fuels the creation of the most powerful art, music, and stories. And next up, intuition. You know that aha moment, right? That sudden flash of lightning in your brain where a super complex idea suddenly becomes simple because you see it in a new way, maybe through a metaphor. That's intuition. It's like the perfect bridge connecting the heart and the head, connecting all that intense feeling with abstract thought. And finally, we reach the top of the ladder, deep cognition. This really is the summit. This is where a mind can develop universal principles, where it can truly see the biggest of big pictures. We're talking about the ability to build entire philosophical or scientific systems from the ground up. Okay, so we've got the ladder. But what does a mind that has mastered every single step actually look like in the real world? For that, we need a guide, a kind of blueprint, and that brings us to our reference model. Our perfect blueprint is the 13th century Persian poet Saadi, and the reason he's our guide is because he showed this incredible, almost perfect balance across all 5 stages. Just look at this. You can literally map his major works to each step on the ladder. His early travel stories, pure sensation. The sharp social observations in his Gulistan, that's perception. And it goes all the way up to this profound universal humanism. And this right here, this is the perfect example of him hitting that peak, stage 5. This quote, "Human beings are members of a whole." Wow. It's so famous, it's actually inscribed at the entrance of the United Nations. It's just this incredibly profound universal humanism. You can't get a better expression of deep cognition than that. And it's just as powerful today. All right, so we've got our toolkit, the 5 stages, and we've got our blueprint in Saadi. So now let's have some fun with it. Let's apply this ladder to 2 types of creators that seem like they're from different planets, the poet and the philosopher. So if you look at how they stack up, you can see 2 totally different ways of climbing that ladder. The poets, they tend to rocket upwards, fueled by raw sensation and powerful feeling. It's a fast, intense climb. But the philosophers, they take a different route. They build more slowly, more methodically, really grounding themselves in perception before making that final push to deep cognition. But here's where it gets really interesting. These 2 paths, they're not walled off from each other. In fact, some of the absolute greatest minds do something amazing. They jump from one lane to the other. Yeah, their paths aren't fixed at all. That's the crucial takeaway here. These creative highways are not rigid. A mind that's been living in the super abstract world of philosophy can all of a sudden pivot and dive right into the emotional, messy world of poetry. And believe it or not, it works the other way around too. And there's a name for this phenomenon. It's called a countercurrent. It's this really fascinating mental shift. Think of your mind like it's trying to stay balanced. If you lean too far one way, let's say you're oversaturated with cold, hard logic, your brain instinctively leans the other way, activating your emotional and intuitive side just to find its equilibrium. It's a brilliant self-correcting mechanism. And this explains so much. It's exactly why a super logical, systematic thinker like Nietzsche, after building these huge philosophical structures, suddenly switched gears and wrote something as poetic and prophetic as Thus Spoke Zarathustra. It's like he hit a wall with pure logic. He needed metaphor, he needed feeling to get his biggest ideas across. And then you see the exact same thing in reverse. Take a poet like Rumi. His whole life was about these huge, overwhelming waves of mystical love and intuitive flashes. But eventually, he needed to make sense of it all, so he developed this incredibly sophisticated philosophical framework to give structure and meaning to all that intense experience. It's just a beautiful example of the mind trying to find its balance. Okay, so let's pull all these threads together and look at the big picture, mapping creative genius. Because what we've been building here isn't just a model for poets and philosophers. No way. It's a super flexible framework you can apply to genius in pretty much any field you can think of. So if we use Saadi's balanced journey as our sort of central reference point, we can start placing other great minds on the map. And look at this. You've got scientists like Einstein and Darwin climbing all the way to the top to deep cognition. Then you have composers like Beethoven and Mozart, whose creative center of gravity is right there in stage 3, feeling. They're just channeling this immense emotion. And then you get someone like Shakespeare, who's just incredible. You can literally watch him evolve, from being a master of social perception in his early stuff to hitting that profound world-changing intuition in his later plays. So really, the biggest takeaway here is that this map isn't just some dusty historical artifact for analyzing long-dead geniuses. Not at all. It's a tool. It's a way to understand your own mind, your own creative process. And that leaves us with one final big question for you to think about. Looking at this map, where does your own creativity peak? Where do you feel most at home? And maybe more importantly, what would it take for you to climb up to that next rung?